Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of MLL Talk. We got off to a wonderful start last week despite some technical difficulties and starting 30 minutes late. Partly my fault, mostly Marissa's fault. You can blame her. You can email her at Marissa at the talkshow.com or something, or just tweet at her or something. I don't know. Anyway, we had some technical difficulties again, but we're here. Again, I'm joined by Alex Urquhart, and we also swap Dave Giancola for Joe Keegan. It will not be a permanent swap, but we're swapping him this week because Joe had other important things to do, like sifting through his trade value column or something like that. I don't really know. I mean, I'm partly just jealous because he has his own corner, but whatever. It's no hard feelings, Joe. So we'd like to welcome both of them. Alex, as you know, does Minnesota Swarm and MCLA coverage for us on InLacrosseWeTrust.com. Meanwhile, Dave does a lot of radio and television work for both Princeton and Rutgers, University and lacrosse, maybe other sports as well. He also does radio for us. You can listen to his show, Lax Report, I believe on Tuesdays, is it, Dave?
Yeah,
Sure.
Tuesday nights, and actually we're doing Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings. We're doing College Lax AM, and then Friday nights and Sunday nights we're doing the College Lax Report. So kind of predictions, results, everything, just a roundup. So it's a pretty cool time. So definitely listen in.
Yes, definitely listen to that, and then obviously I can do my shameless plug of listening to me and Brendan Stout on MLL Roundtable on Tuesday nights from 7 to 8, and then me and John Alfonso Ayadavaya also do a college show, NCA Lax Game Day, Saturday mornings from 11 to 12. Anyway, guys, how are you doing? Dave, how does it feel to be here on MLL Talk?
I'm excited, man, and I'm excited because I know we're gonna delve into a little NCAA, and I know it's the MLL Roundtable, but I love my college lacrosse, so I'm definitely psyched. But I know we're gonna get into the player pool with the MLL. It was super exciting, so definitely awesome to be on with you guys.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get a full kind of round table between the four of us when you and Joe decide to stop being awesome and stuff. So
No, we're gonna get it done. I promise.
All right, well, I'll let you do that. And Alex, how are you doing out there in Minnesota? I know it's like the third or fourth coming of the polar vortex. I mean, how's it going?
Yeah, we're polar vortex. I think version 4.0. Haven't been able to feel my toes for the last 2 days. We're lacrosse popsicles out here right now. It's not fun, but the spring is right around the corner for us, so we're hoping that it comes sooner rather than later at this point.
So what's spring for you guys, like 20, 30 degrees?
Actually, we do get up to 40 degrees around here. It's amazing, but we do. That's pretty much the lacrosse season for us. Anything you get 40 and you're running around in shorts and a t-shirt for the most part.
That's still cold. I know, Alex, I think you're from Jersey too, but I'm from North Jersey. That's still kind of cold for us.
I couldn't deal with it. No way.
I don't know how you guys do it. Maybe you guys like drink an excess of beer before you go out there so you don't feel limbs. I don't know.
It's the only way you can.
Craig Ferguson's got the magic elixir whiskey. That's pretty much what we use out here to thaw out our cars.
Is that what it is?
Nice.
For whiskey on your cars, that's the way to melt the snow.
Oh yeah.
All right, I guess we'll have to try that here in Jersey or something. Guys, by the way, before we start, how do you like my kind of MLL talk beard? I think I'm gonna keep it going until we get a full cast of 4.
Solid. Hopefully it's only another 7 days then.
Yeah, actually, I'll probably have to shave it because I'm gonna start coaching and I have a parents meeting Monday, so I should probably kind of look somewhat not like a scrub, right?
Maybe just like a shape up. We know about those in Jersey.
Yeah,
freshen it up.
I don't know how to really shape it up. I either go all or nothing. Maybe I'll
man.
do the stash and leave the rest, or maybe I should do like half and half, like a half mustache, half.
Oh, jeez.
Just
No,
don't
really,
just don't tell anyone, and we'll see you next week. You know,
yeah.
when we get back
Keep it a
on here.
surprise. Keep it under wraps. Maybe do a Twitter tease every couple of days. See what people are feeling out there.
It's like Beard Watch 1.0 or something.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what it's
All
at.
right. So anyway, this is an MLL talk show, so let's dive right into it, boys. First segment. The biggest news out of the MLL world, of course, 2 or 3 weeks ago, was the fact that the LXM Pro League and the MLL League both kind of accepted a merger where players can cross over into leagues. Obviously, there was a signing of the sponsorship of STX, the company, which kind of allowed those players to move in between both leagues. And they had a draft this year, or they had a draft. I don't even know how it happened or what happened. It was kind of a waiver. Anyway, they picked their teams, or they didn't pick their teams, but they were claimed by teams. Boston added Eric Martin and Brandon Porter. New York added Shamel Bratton, one of the Bratton brothers. Charlotte actually let go of Tim Desco. Rochester got Bradman, and Florida got Bryce Dabbs and Milton Miles. Ohio got Kyle Harrison, as well as Eric Crum, and Chesapeake got the other Bratton brother. And I think that was it. So, out of all the moves, who won, who lost, and what was the biggest surprise to you guys out of the whole entire player pool? Dave, I guess you can go first. We'll give you benefit of the doubt here.
All right. I mean, when you look at it, it seems kind of crazy that Ohio, got Harrison and Baum, and then they got Schreiber in the draft. So it's kind of crazy. It seems like they, can turn the corner pretty quickly. The Brattons, I don't know a lot about where they are right now, and I don't know how this is all going to translate, like how they've been playing compared to what they're going to see in the MLL. But I know they're really excited. I went to Rutgers with Brandon Porter, and I follow him on all the social networks and stuff, and I know how psyched he is to get picked up by Boston. So I know one thing for sure. Although Ohio won and everything, I think lacrosse won because as the sport grows, it's big to have the star power in one league and not confuse people as we're trying to gain steam, especially in media and everything. It's too confusing when Kyle Harrison, who's STX's face, is in the LXM, and then Paul Rabel, who's has articles in the New York Times, is in the MLL, and I think people get confused. So I'm just happy that there's a merger and that all the guys are going to be playing on the same field.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think we have to have some sort of merger between the two leagues to kind of make it one big league. I mean, if we want to grow, we can't have it like the NFL where it was kind of AFL, NFL, and then those were the two leagues, and then they finally merged, and that's when the NFL started growing popularity. Before It was not as much.
Sure.
Alex, going over to you. Where do you think this is going? Do you think Ohio to me, Ohio got like a steal because they got both probably the two best players in LXM, in Peter Baum, who they drafted and then just didn't play, and then Kyle Harrison.
Yeah, I think Ohio's the easy team to say, they won out of this. Genius move by the GM to put a protected player tag on Baum after drafting him. And then, you pick up Schreiber this year, so you've got back-to-back number one draft picks, and you've got Harrison now. I mean, that team is starting to look pretty scary at this point. I mean, they're going to go. I've got a feeling they're going to go from bottom of the heap to top of the heap, challenging Chesapeake and Denver pretty quick here. I mean, they've got a good coaching staff too down there, and if they can get all the pieces to fit together properly, it's going to be a pretty fun time in Ohio.
Yeah. I also saw that Eric Crum, who Ohio got, was second in the LXM in goals with 36. So another huge scorer for Ohio. So the offense is going to be crazy and definitely fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know how they keep pulling it out, but they keep getting good players here in the last. I mean, since they moved to Ohio, they just keep racking up the great players. I mean, they're obviously that offense is just going to tear people apart day in and day out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the biggest problem for them last year was their offense. I mean, outside of Logan Shush and Steele Stanwyck, now both guys have all this unique talent around them in the midfield. I mean, it's actually crazy what Ohio is going to do. I think Rochester could easily be the worst team in the league, and it's not going to be by a lot. I think all 8 teams are now kind of very close together, and it wouldn't shock anyone to really see them lose. I mean, see any of these teams win. I mean, Is that how you guys feel?
Yeah. I think every year you're surprised in the MLL. I mean, Denver goes undefeated, and you think you're going to watch them finally do it, go undefeated and win it, and then they lose. And, going into the season, was Denver even supposed to be that good? I didn't think so. So I think every year's crazy, and I think that's what's great about lacrosse. And, the instability of the league, I think is great, especially as we're growing, because the Florida launch could come in and win the whole thing, and that's great,
Yeah, even though they're not a true expansion team because they're just taking over a team that went to the Final Four anyway. But I mean, what about you? I mean, you seem pretty high on Ohio. I mean, I'm kind of getting some traction. If you want to accept me on the bandwagon, leave me in the room. But I mean, you could see them make a top 4 and make a run into the ML championship weekend at the least, right?
Yeah, I don't think it'd be outside of the norm to see them actually make it to the final, to make it to championship weekend. I mean, with that offense, I mean, as long as the defense holds up for them, through most games, they'll be there. That offense will carry them there.
Yeah, I think one question I have for both of you guys is, what were the biggest names that were not taken? I mean, Jimmy Bitter wasn't taken. He was one of the best players in college and also probably one of the best players in the LXM Pro Tour. Both Ritz brothers, same time, were some of the best LXM Pro players. I mean, how do those guys not get picked up, right?
Yeah, I think Bitter shocks me more from a marketing standpoint. I guess I keep talking about the business aspect, but I do think it's very important for the game that the business is run the right way. And I just think, like, the Bitter name, I think the more bitters in the league, the better. And it's not like he doesn't deserve it's not like he can't make one of these teams. So that surprises me that there's a Bitter that's not in the league.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Charlotte didn't take him. I mean, he played for UNC. Everybody knows the name down there. He grew up in New Hampshire. I'm kind of surprised, even the Rattlers didn't try. I mean, it kind of surprises me. I think a team with the Rattlers, I think the Rattlers kind of, they only got Bradman really out of it. And, there's more guys there that I think they probably could have gotten. I think they probably could have gotten Johnny Rodriguez, who's a goaltender in the LXM Pro Tour, who played for Salisbury, was probably the best goalie for Salisbury in the last probably 10 years. And he didn't get picked up either. There's guys there that, unfortunately, teams that needed guys did not take them.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but there's nothing that I've seen either on social media, on MLL, like anything on the internet that says that, there's, granted it was a player pool, but none of these guys are coming out and saying like, oh, I didn't want to play in the league. Maybe they didn't put their names in the pool. Maybe their other jobs outside of lacrosse are preventing them from doing it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know, part of me feels like it's not a problem, but it does beg the question, do these guys even want to commit?
Well, it's like we talked about last week. With the LXM, merging with the MLL, really it's not much of a merger. It's really just an absorption. The LXM Tour is not bringing in the 2 teams here that they had. They're not bringing in Team SDX and Maverick United, they're not bringing those teams to the league. They're just bringing the players.
Right.
And I mean, it was 10 guys actually got picked up, if that even. So I mean, it really, I think the MLL may have kind of forced it, unfortunately. I mean, I personally, I think that they needed to bring in at least a new team, whether it's a traveling team where they play a new home game and, test cities like LA again, up here in Minnesota, Texas, OKC somewhere, and then more or less keep guys on that team from the LXM tour. And I mean, guys like Kyle Harrison and Peter Baum and those kinds of guys. But it is what it is, and we gotta kind of deal with it from our standpoint. So
yeah. So just before you go, Dave, pose the question bouncing off of what Alex just brought up. Do you think that instead of taking a separate player pool, do you think they should have just brought both teams in and started new teams? Because I mean, look, you're bringing in all these guys like Bradman and Harrison. They're all very talented, and now there's kind of a logjam of talent on all these teams. At some point, we have to expand here, expand the game, expand teams. Maybe they should expand teams, dilute the player pool a little bit, and I think they could do that by bringing in like Team SDX, Team Maverick, and kind of reconfiguring the players around that. Do you think that's what should happen?
I absolutely think that should happen. I mean, the most important thing for the game is to be in as many cities as possible right now, and the drop-off between those players isn't great enough to dilute the quality of the experience of the league. So I think getting as many talented lacrosse players, they're professionals right now. They're in shape, and a lot of these guys have other jobs. So when they stop playing professional lacrosse, whether it's LXM or MLL, they're going to tend to get out of lacrosse shape. These guys are in shape right now. I think you need to get them on board, have them in the league, have them in cities. Like, I love, the idea of a traveling team to start things out, or, come up with something like that. Whether they only play away games. I mean, these guys aren't living in the cities they play in. They get flown out to games. It's possible for them to only play away games, so there are more games, and they can be on TV more and fit more TV in. And form a more formidable schedule, because one game a week, it's getting more steam now, but it's just tough, and I think capitalizing on the player pool is what they need to do, and they're probably missing out, I guess.
Yeah, so Alex, do you think that if there was this traveling team or a new team should spot up, I know we talked about it last week, do you think they should put it in the West to balance out and help out Denver? Should it go to LA or Texas or Arizona? All these places that LXM Pro Tour plays in.
I think that probably the best idea would have been for the league right now would have been to try and get more center based in LA and centering a Western Conference. Eventually trying to get to a Western Conference kind of thing, with LA and Denver kind of being the top two teams. I like the traveling idea right away. I mean, you test how many people actually show up to games at certain stadiums. You test stadium sizes in those areas and stuff. I mean, places like LA, Portland, Texas, whether it's in Dallas or Austin, Tempe, Arizona, where LXM has gone a couple of times. I mean, even if you go out from LA, you go up to even Orange County or, San Francisco. I mean, there's a lot of places that the league, well, for LA and San Francisco, they used to be in places that they can expand and do pretty well, I think, in. And from both the business standpoint and from the community standpoint.
Yeah, one thing also that I know the 12th man in Seattle, and they get behind their teams 100%. Like the Seattle Sounders in the MLS, their fans are crazy, and I think that's a city, just like Portland or San Francisco. But I think if you want a fan base and you want to get people excited and you want to have that environment that they surely want, I think you could go there. The only thing that immediately hops into my mind is, are you going to have players that a lot of whom may work on Wall Street or wherever in DC, you're going to have them flying out to Seattle to play games, or vice versa, just the whole travel issue, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if there are enough Western, I guess, born players, not like guys who are out in the States. Like, obviously, you have talented guys. You have, like, a Rob Emery who's drafted by the Cannons. You have Peter Baum, like we just said, #1 pick. He lives out in Oregon. I don't know if right now it'd be feasibly able to go out there. Obviously, Seattle sounds like a great place because of like what you said. 12th man, the atmosphere there is incredible. They take their teams and they take their teams strong, and they're very bitter about losing the Seattle Supersonics.
Yes. They are.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, granted, a lacrosse team isn't on that level, but maybe they make it to that level. And imagine them playing in Quest Field with a lacrosse team. Maybe something sparks up there.
Yep.
And that's the thing is right now that's what the cities that the league needs to be looking for to expand in is those places that lost, another team. I mean, Seattle would love to get behind another team, especially after winning an NFL championship. I mean, why not? I mean, that sounds great to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so here's the thing I'm thinking of is when some of us on the In Lacrosse We Trust staff, we went over to MLL Championship weekend, right in Philly. It was at the PPL Park. I don't know, I mean, Alex, you probably haven't been there because you're from Minnesota and that's a long trek.
It is. It's a lot of money at that point. Yeah.
It's just to point out the obvious, but
yeah, I've been over there. I think it's a great venue, and I think it's perfect for lacrosse, which I'm sure you're about to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Here's the thing. Right around the area is terrible, Dave. I mean, I don't know about you, but
Yeah,
traveling
no,
right in there was
that's true.
Actual venue is great. I mean, you look right out onto the river. It's a beautiful sight once you're in the stadium, but the immediate area right around it, kind of dangerous. I mean, you're not gonna
and I think the same thing goes for the nicest stadium I've ever been in, and that's Red Bull Stadium in Harrison, New Jersey, right down the street from me.
Right.
That place is incredible. I like the sight lines and everything. The press box, it's immaculate. I think it's nicer than MetLife, the new MetLife, and it's just in a terrible town. It's in the middle of a field, and then it's like a path station to downtown Manhattan, and that's it.
Yep.
So it's a tough sell, and I think for the lacrosse crowd, it definitely has to be considered because you want it to be an environment that people can thrive in, especially the local economy. And if there isn't one, then it's pointless.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I guess that was kind of my next point because, I mean, some of these stadiums, for the most part, are placed in, I mean, some of the bigger stadiums, I would say, are placed in areas that are good. Like all these football and basketball arenas. They're placed in areas, well, maybe not MetLife because MetLife is in the swamp. Well, I mean, it's just the truth. But
It is.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, Alex, they're making the new Minnesota Vikings stadium.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. I have to pay for a team I don't like, so.
But is that in a good area? I mean, like.
Actually, it's not in a horrible area. Actually, it's a nice little area. It's starting to get pulled up because of the construction, because of the new stadium. The same thing happened when the Twins built Target Field. If you're any at all follow baseball, that's one of the nicer stadiums in the league right now. And there's beautiful apartment buildings that are popping up over there. There's all kinds of new stuff, and that's the same thing that they're getting to happen around the new Viking Stadium. I mean, if you get the right backers behind it and real estate agents and stuff like that, stuff starts popping up. So that's one of the things that the MLL needs to look at is what the business base around the stadiums are. to see what can be done about possibly getting the communities around there up.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, and just the last point before we shift over to the NCA here is just remember the point that was a big brain fart by me. But what I was gonna say is we didn't notice a lot of players there promoting their own products. Like they had a Paul Rabel like truck there with all his like Warrior STX stuff, but they didn't have him there promoting his own stuff, like attracting fans. And that's what I feel like the MLL is lacking from a promotional business standpoint. Like, Dave and you, Alex, are both pointing out is the fact that, I mean, we really need the stars, the real stars, the guys who are on like Under Armour commercials to be there promoting the game, even if it's in a bad place like PPL Park or something.
Absolutely. It's all about star power. It's like, I think they have to take the model from the NHL and ride, because the NHL needs to catch up, just like the MLL does, even though the MLL is not a lot newer, excuse me. But you have to ride the coattails of your stars. You have to put them in front of fans. You have to make them accessible. Social media isn't enough. And a lot of times athletes think it is enough, but it's not.
And it's like the NHL has been sitting here, and I mean, part of the whole thing with the new league realignment was to get those stars in front of every fan they possibly could. I mean, and if you look at a guy like Sidney Crosby, and I mean, everybody knows the guy's name. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody wants to buy his stuff. So I mean, we're seeing a little bit of that with Rabel and Warrior, but we need, I mean, guys like Bradman, who is a full tilt star and can do wonders up there in Rochester. We need guys like that are going to be those guys that are going to they're going to put themselves out in front of fans.
Yeah, exactly. And, hopefully Commissioner Groves kind of, I guess, sees that. And hopefully with the STX sponsorship or merger or whatever you want to call it, it helps out the league. But let's shift gears here to the college game, because there's a lot to talk about. A lot of good games last weekend. Maryland, Syracuse comes to mind. And then a lot of heavy tilts this weekend. David, I know you're going to do one for radio, Princeton and Hopkins. But before we get to that game, I want to talk about my boys, Maryland, baby. Coming in to the Dome, the baby Terps, taking it to Syracuse, 16-8. Guys, what did we learn more about Syracuse? What team did we learn more about, Syracuse or Maryland? Syracuse overrated, or is Maryland underrated? Alex, I know you're a former Terp, so sound off with me.
I loved it. It was amazing, and I gotta say, Charlie Raffa just put on a clinic at the face-off X. Absolutely destroyed Iancoa and Daddio. I mean, it was bad. I don't even have words for what Maryland did to Syracuse. I do think
Syracuse, there were just so many like false starts right at the beginning of that game.
Yeah,
like, you got into the second quarter, it was just a false start for no reason.
Yeah, and it was so nice to see. I've been so tired of the Syracuse is this, Syracuse is that. I mean, I like seeing them get their getting their dues. I think Maryland is the number one team in the country. I don't know if Duke had. I mean, they haven't really been tested too hard against top teams yet. So I think Maryland should be the number one team right now. Maryland or Syracuse at 5 right now. I think that's where they probably are going to stick for a little bit at least. But yeah, it's great to see.
Yeah, I'm a little more cautious when it comes to fandom. I try not to go too full into that. And try to keep a realistic point of view. But David, what do you think? Do you think Maryland's underrated and Syracuse is overrated, or both teams are about proper? We got Syracuse's worst game. I mean, what do you think of what happened last Saturday?
I think Maryland showed that their first midfield is pretty awesome. And Syracuse, I grew up as a Princeton guy, so I also just grew up, and it was just like I hate the Powells. I want Princeton to beat Syracuse, but I respect Syracuse. I just don't know if they were just riding the coattails of a preseason ranking. I feel kind of bad saying that because they are Syracuse, and they're definitely a talented team. But I definitely didn't see the urgency for a game against Maryland, and Maryland just showed that they mean business, and I think it's time for them to step up. And I think if they do get the number one spot, I think they're going to hang on to it for a good amount of time. And the great thing about it is the ACC this year is just ridiculous. So Maryland's going to have to work really hard to keep the number one spot, and that's awesome for us who love to watch it every weekend. So.
Yeah, and just a side note, Maryland was picked to finish last in the ACC. I mean, that's how good this league is,
Right.
the preseason by the coaches. But transitioning right into our next topic is there are a lot of good games this week. And I don't mean good, I mean great games this week. Just to go off of what Maryland's doing, not only do they have to play Syracuse, go up to the Dome, now they're playing Duke. So we're going to see who the best team in the nation is. Penn State versus Ohio State, a future
Awesome.
Big Ten matchup is occurring also. Notre Dame versus UNC in the ACC, another big ACC tilt. And then finally, UPenn versus Denver. So, Alex, what is the best game this weekend? If you had to watch one, what is the best game?
I would love to say Maryland versus Duke, or but for me, I'm in a Big Ten area, it's Penn State, Ohio State. I mean, the two of them hate each other in every other sport, and next year we get to see it. I mean, for the next however long the Big Ten conference lasts. I mean, but for me, I think that's the game that I would want to watch more. I would go back and watch Maryland versus Duke on ESPN 3 again and again and again, but I think Penn State, Ohio State is the one that I would watch. But, I mean, we've got so many good games coming up this weekend that it's just going to be insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have DVR here, so I'm gonna try to hope to set up about 5 screens in front of me somehow and stream all of them. But Dave, what about you? I mean, what do you think about this UNC Notre Dame matchup? Notre Dame, great defense, UNC, high-powered offense. Is that the game for you to watch this weekend, or is it the one you're doing Princeton Hopkins?
I can't shy away from the Maryland Duke. It's just too good. And I don't know if anybody's listened to my radio shows. I'm kind of an admitted Notre Dame hater since birth. So I picked them last in the ACC. I have my whole life, but their defense is for real. If I'm supposed to analyze it subjectively, their defense is definitely for real, and UNC has to prove themselves. And Notre Dame's going to be hungry, too, coming off a loss. So they need to be careful. Princeton Hopkins, I'm really looking forward to this because I don't know what to expect. Princeton's only 1 game in, 2 games in. They beat Manhattan on Tuesday. But I've seen Johns Hopkins a bunch already, and they look so good that Princeton had Hofstra, who I'm still not sure about, and then Manhattan, and now it's just all right, here's Hopkins at home. They're number 5. They're on a roll, and you got to get on a roll right now. They've been splitting time between 2 goalies in cage, which I'm not a big fan of. I always think you should give a goalie his game to own. But they've been splitting time, and I think this kid Matt Kavanaugh's proved himself. I hope he gets the whole game this week, whether he plays well in the first half or not. But it's going to be an exciting game, and obviously the one I'm most hyped for because I'm going to be in the building, and it's always special when these two get together. And it's nice that it's back at Princeton or at Hopkins on the small venue fields, because as much as the NFL stadiums are great, these guys have the rivalry's kind of been lost in these face-off classics that keep putting Princeton and Hopkins in MetLife Stadium or M&T Bank. So it's nice to see the rivalry back on campus.
Yeah, they actually just a little tidbit 2 years ago. My college team, Drew, we actually went and saw, I guess, the first game back in like the small venue, like you're talking about at Homewood Field. Hopkins was like a big favorite over Princeton, I think,
I
and
was there. Yeah, I did that game.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
awesome.
and I think Princeton won that game like pretty handily, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was when Schreiber really put his stamp on what he was
right.
capable of. Was
Right.
that game?
He was crazy that game. But I
Yeah,
mean, now it's kind of more of a rivalry. And my biggest question about Princeton, like you're saying, is I mean, who are they? I mean, Hofstra, Hofstra's not bad, but they haven't been like like 4 years ago when someone said, "Oh, I'm going to Hofstra to play," I was like, "Wow, like this kid's really good." Now
yeah,
someone says that, and I'm kind of like, "Yeah, okay." You're still a good player. You're better than me, but like, you're not like, it just doesn't have that same type of alert. And Hofstra really pushed Princeton. I don't know if that's a first game jitter kind of thing, or if this is
yeah,
going to be a problem for Princeton. I mean, like you said, Hopkins is like 5 games in. Princeton has
yeah,
like 2 games in, but like Manhattan is you know,
yeah.
push over.
Manhattan is a game you play on a Tuesday night. You know,
Yeah.
let's be honest. So when you're a top 10 team, if you're playing on a Tuesday night, unless it's a rivalry game like Princeton and Villanova are playing this day, uh, it's usually an easy opponent at the beginning of the season. But it's definitely a question mark. I don't know who Princeton is yet either. I mean, their defense is young, um, so I'm like half nervous, half excited because I really want to broadcast from the Final Four, and I've been doing Princeton for a couple of years now, and I've never gotten to do it. So I'm hoping.
Well,
Hopefully.
everybody's for me, I think everybody's kind of shortchanging Hofstra a little bit. I mean, Tierney's
Mhm.
got that stuff turned around. I mean, I think they've probably got a pretty good chance of making the tournament this year, actually.
But the loss to Marquette is just like
Yeah,
what?
that's really
You
bad.
know,
Like,
and
Was
that's the
really
thing
bad.
is, I mean, I've actually gotten to meet Marquette coaches. They
mhm.
What they've been able to do in such a short amount of time, even,
Yeah,
is amazing. And I think that was kind of the moniker that they wanted to bring in right away, was they wanted to
yeah,
stun somebody,
yeah,
and that's what they did. Now I think Hofstra went in there thinking a little, Marquette's a little light for them,
right.
especially. I mean, so it's season opener. You kind of get to sit around and rest on your laurels a little bit because you've got the
Yeah,
pedigree. But I think
I
I've got a feeling Hofstra's going to be doing great things at the end of the season for us.
yeah, I think they're talented. I think Hofstra's talented, and I know what you're saying. The Marquette coaching staff, I think, is one of like the brightest, youngest in the country. Like Stephen Brundage, who
Mm-hmm.
came from Princeton to there, he was a great coach. Like that was a great get for them. And um, I think Hofstra's obviously had some jitters, but for a team that needed to prove themselves to get back to prominence, to drop that game is like, come on, guys. And as much as you want to say it's jitters, it's like it's a new program. You're Hofstra. You
Yeah.
need to get back to the top 10, top 15. How are you going to do it? And then Seth Tierney's team just comes out and you know what's everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Hofstra is as bad as we thought, and I think they're like you said, Alex, they're kind of on the way up. But I mean, for Princeton with the hype that it's had coming into this season, I mean, they got Orpid or I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong, Kip Orban.
Kip Orban, yeah,
Yeah, Kip
yeah.
Orban, Schreiber. They've got a solidified defense. Surprised actually that they're taking out Liam O'Connor, who basically started all last year, Dave. They're splitting halves with him all of a sudden, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
he was question mark last year, kind of his consistency, and I think Kavanaugh was a senior, so they wanted to give him a
right,
fair shot at it in the preseason. And the way he's playing, I think he's going to take over.
right. So I mean that'll just be an interesting game to watch for sure. So
For sure.
let's get into two topics real quick. The first is Albany. They lost another one-goal game to Drexel after losing basically an epic game against Syracuse the week before. Is it time to panic there? I mean, their offense we know is great. They got the Thompson brothers. They have basically a lot of their offense coming back, except one senior from the previous year who put up like 28 points. but their defense is just atrocious, man. And I don't know. I don't really know what to think of Albany, I guess, because they won't play in a great conference in the NEC, but I mean, also you got to wonder if if their defense is good enough.
You got to win faceoffs to get that offensive ball, or they're not gonna do well the whole season or in the tournament, because offenses are scoring more and more, and if they don't have possession, they're going to get scored on as much as they would score on offense, because their defense is really, not really there. But like, Drexel is a serious contender. I think they're right on the fringe. They're probably going to fall out because they're losing some close ones like Villanova, which would be huge for their resume. But Drexel's a good team, and who knows what is Syracuse? I don't even know what that tells us. Was that like two teams just going off on bad defenses? Because that's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah. Albany, I think this is when, we talked about, panic buttons for some teams last week. And I think Albany right now they need to hit that panic button. They need to do something on defense, change something, go from what they're doing to something new, because it's getting bad. I have a feeling they might not even make it out of the NEC if they keep playing defense the way they are.
Bryant's good, so they could easily not win that.
Yeah. Bryant pulled a big upset over Bucknell like a week ago, or last week, 12-9. So after losing to Colgate, they always play Colgate tough, and Colgate's not a bad program at all, but it was just interesting to see, Bucknell, I'm really high on in terms of being kind of a dark horse team in Patriot League, kind of contending with Loyola. So that was definitely interesting to see.
Yeah, and it opens the door for Lehigh to think that they have a shot at the Patriot League too.
Right, so who are defending champs, back-to-back champs in that league too.
Yeah.
So that's definitely interesting. A lot of what we focus on is D1. I want to go real quick to D3 though, because Stevenson and RIT played an instant classic last week. 15-14, RIT won in overtime. I don't know if you guys saw the highlights, but the way RIT won was like, it is actually a disservice to the game, because so here's the sequence for those who didn't see it. RIT takes a shot. The shot goes off the left post if you're facing the goal. Bounces out. The goalie goes out to get it. There's a huge scramble for the ball. The goalie goes to pick it up, but he gets checked. He falls. Ball's on the ground. RIT picks it up, moves it. Guy just cranks it into an open goal. Game over. Probably the worst ending to a great game, though. It was just terrible. But it was a rematch of last year's game. What are your thoughts on that game, just in terms of D3? Because Stevenson did move to an easier division for them, so they don't have to play Salisbury in the conference title game every year. But what do you think about both teams' prospects?
Go ahead, Alex.
D3 is closer to what I get to cover most of the time. I sit there and I cover the MCLA quite a bit. So D3 for me, it's kind of a step up, like a half step up from what I'm already dealing with. But that game, I saw the final there, that final goal, and that was it. And I kind of was like, well, holy crap, I need to go onto frickin' YouTube and see if I can find this frickin' thing. But seeing two teams that fight each other, have been fighting each other out for the last number of years, it's great to see them play each other early in the year now and keep that rivalry going. I think it's probably one of the better rivalries right now in the country at any level. Personally, I think we need to have more D3 on TV. We need more D2 and D3 on TV, period. Those guys are great lacrosse players still. Just because they're not playing D1 does not mean they're bad lacrosse players anymore. And, for me, we've got more D3 teams out here in the Midwest, so that's kind of what we get to get for the NCAA. But, like you said, it's an instant classic game. I don't know if the ending was a disservice to the game, but it was. It kind of made sense that it was one of those, one of those 50-50 plays. Guy checks a goalie, 2 passes later, and he's got a goal. That's lacrosse.
Yeah, it was just disappointing. I mean, it wasn't a disservice. It was just really disappointing for it to end like that, I guess. Goalie coming out of the cage, he goes to pick it up, and just to end like that. I wanted to see like ball movement or real offense, got dodge and like rip it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Dave, what did you think about it, real quick, on a last thought? I
I,
mean,
ju-
you
I
agree
just
with Alex that more D3 games should be on? I mean, Salisbury is basically a D1 team.
Oh yeah, I mean I completely agree. But in a perfect world, of course, I would want more lacrosse on TV at any level. Give me whatever. But realistically, you just have to brand the game with D1 first, and until that's prime time, unfortunately, you're not going to see D3. Other than I know that I don't know if they still do. I'll be honest, but the D3 championship they used to put on like CBS Sports. And I don't know if they did last year. It was on CBS College Network, College Sports. I don't even know if the channel still exists, but it was on one year, I promise. And it was fun to watch. I know you can stream it on NCAA.com, but I hate watching sports online. I hate it. But yeah, I thought the intensity of the game was great, and I love D3 because of how well you have to do week in and week out, and how ferocious the schedules can be. And it's great. And the tournament, I think that tournament is sometimes more exciting than the D1 tournament if you are watching the games. Not if you're looking at the box scores, but if you're watching the games, it's really fast lacrosse.
Yeah, it's a different style than what the D1's playing right now, and I like it better. I mean, it like you said, it's so fast and it's so just gut wrenching to watch some of these teams because they come down to 1-goal games most of the time. I mean, the top level of D3. I mean, how many losses do they really get in a year? And then they meet each other in the tournament, and they've got to sit there and they play regionals for it, regional parts of the tournament, and it's like, well, holy crap, you're adding another, 2 or 3 games in there before they even make it to anywhere near the championship games. I mean, that's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also a lot more teams. There's, I want to say, I don't even know, like 100-something D3 teams. I mean, and it's all over the place too. It's a lot more expansive than D1 for obvious reasons because they can't do scholarships.
Yeah.
Some of the D3 lacrosse, I want to say, even in my own division, wasn't very watchable. I mean, it was to a point where, like, there would be some good lacrosse, but then you kind of watch, like, I was in a game that featured probably 60 to 70 turnovers combined between the two of us, and that featured one top 20 team and us. So I don't know. You can take your own thoughts from that. But really, really quickly, I wanted to add this question in I just thought of. Stupidest or dumbest thing you've done in the past week?
Oh, man. Stupidest thing I've done in the past week. Oh, man.
Alex, what do you got?
Oh, jeez. I don't even know. I live a dull life in here in Minnesota. We got nothing to do right now. I mean, it's even too cold to go outside and pull some pull some luge down your driveway. But
you don't throw like cold water or hot water out into the air and see it mist or something? Is that not what you guys do for fun outside in Minnesota?
that's cool, like once when you're 5. I mean, you guys in the Northeast are you're so fascinated by cold weather.
Oh, we're getting it. We're getting a taste.
All right. Well, I tried to throw a fast one on you guys to see if you guys had any good answers, but we gotta go. Dave, I know you have a telephone conference, but to our viewers, anyone who did view in, all 2 of you, thanks for coming in on MLL Talk. You can tweet at us at Goldberg, at the coach, and at Dave. What's your handle?
Giancola Sports.
Giancola Sports.
Pretty simple.
Tune in next week. Very easy, very easy. Yeah. Tune in next week. Maybe we'll have some more fun. Maybe they'll have good answers for dumbest or stupidest thing they've done over the past week. We thank you for tuning in. Have a great week, everybody.